Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Christine Zabo Ra. Sorry for the noise. I'm here in the south of France, Cap d'Antibes to be exact. I'm going for a walk with the dogs. I just had to stop and film this episode because there's something that's been really weighing on me. To be honest, I'm horrified what's going on in the world right now. War after war, families suffering, trapped in conflict, children dying. And these last weeks, it hit home really hard because there are students from Matthew's school who couldn't come back from the Middle East after their holiday. And, you know, they're stuck. They're stuck over there. And one family wrote to me that they're having the worst nights of their life. When you hear that by people you know and care about, it really makes you ask this question. Well, it made me ask this question. What can I do? Can regular citizens like me stop this injustice, even stop wars? Well, the thought about it, it's like, yeah, history says yes. There have been moments in this world when people changed everything. For example, during the Vietnam War in the 1960s and early 70s, thousands of soldiers were dying and millions of Vietnamese were suffering. And something remarkable began to happen. Regular citizens, students, parents, veterans, soldiers, they started to speak out. They marched in the streets, they protested peacefully, they questioned their governments. Millions of voices rose together saying, "This war must end." The pressure from citizens became impossible to ignore, and eventually the United States withdrew from Vietnam in 1973, the year that I was born. And I take that as a sign that my voice matters. And if my voice matters, your voice matters. We can speak up, and our collective voice can change history. We can post, we can share, we can vote, we can rally together, and together we can help change this moment in time, just like others have done before us, like the civil rights movement. In the 1950s and 60s, millions of ordinary Americans stood up against racial injustice, segregation. They organized peaceful marches, boycotts, and sit-ins. Citizens of every background, every color joined together, demanding equality, led by the voices like Martin Luther King Jr. The governments passed historic laws that ended segregation and protected voting rights. It wasn't politicians who led that change. It was us citizens. And then there was the fall of the apartheid. For decades in South Africa, the people lived under a brutal system called apartheid. People were separated and oppressed because of the color of their skin, but citizens refused to stay silent. Students protested, workers went on strike, and people around the world organized boycotts. The pressure from ordinary people, both inside and outside of the country, eventually led to the release of Nelson Mandela in 1994. Once again, another moment where people changed history. I remember being in Laguna Beach, California, in high school. I was like a junior or senior. We were watching on this TV box the fall of the Berlin Wall. For nearly 30 years, the Berlin Wall symbolized oppression during the Cold War. But it didn't fall because of a battle. It fell because citizens gathered in the streets week after week. Hundreds of thousands of people peacefully protested, and eventually the pressure became unstoppable. And in 1989, the wall came down, not through violence, but through the power of people. Now, I have a really cool story, an important story about how one man alone prevented nuclear war. It's not a story many people have heard of, and it's really cool. In 1983, during the Cold War, Soviet early warning systems showed that the United States had launched a nuclear missile. Protocol required the officer on duty to report the attack immediately. If he did, it would likely trigger a massive nuclear retaliation. World War III would have started within minutes. But this officer, Stanin Petrov, I believe, he hesitated. Something in him said, this doesn't sound right, it must be wrong. And so instead of pushing the button, he chose to wait, and he was right. The system, in fact, had malfunctioned. If he had followed protocol, nuclear missiles would have launched across the world. Millions, hundreds of millions of people probably would have died. Can you imagine? One ordinary human trusted his intuition and his consciousness, and he prevented war. The truth is, history does show us something super important. Governments may start war, but we people can stop them. When citizens speak up, refuse injustice, we vote, we organize, we protest peacefully, we support humanity, and we stand together, change becomes possible. It may not happen overnight, but history proves it can happen. So, you may be asking yourself now, and if you're still here, thank you. Why is Christine talking about this on Christine Szabo Raw? What does this have to do with mental health, trauma healing, and mastering life? I'll tell you why. Because it's about purpose. And purpose is one of life's pie for peace pieces. And you're here in this moment when people need you. And I'll tell you a real case study about purpose that healed. In the early 2000s, Portugal was facing one of the worst episodes of heroin. Nearly 1 out of every 100 people were addicted to heroin, and overdoses were everywhere. For years, these addicts were punished. They were thrown in jail, shamed, and it wasn't working. So Portugal tried something different. Instead of treating addiction as a crime, they started treating it as a human problem. They helped people reconnect to society. Former addicts were offered to help find jobs, housing support, therapy and healthcare, small business grants, community reintegration. In other words, they gave people purpose again. Because addiction isn't just about substances, it's about disconnection. Disconnection from family, disconnection from meaning, disconnection from belonging. And when people began reconnecting to work, to community, and to responsibility, something remarkable happened. Addiction rates dropped, overdose dropped dramatically, and lives began rebuilding. Because when human beings know they matter again, healing becomes possible. Human beings need purpose, whether that purpose is raising children, caring for family, helping animals, serving the vulnerable, protecting nature, or standing up for peace. Purpose gives meaning. And sometimes when we help heal the world around us, we just end up healing ourselves. This is actually the heart of a TEDx talk where I speak about deep human connection and mental health, how disconnection almost killed me and is killing our society, and how we rebuild ourselves with giving each other and ourselves connection. So if this message resonates with you, can you please share this? I'll share the link of the TED Talk in the comments, and so hopefully you'll watch that too and share that too. And I'm going to end you with one of my favorite quotes from Saint Mother Teresa. Don't wait for leaders. Do it alone, person to person. So please remember something really important. You're not powerless. Your voice matters. My voice matters. And together, millions of voices can shape the future our children will live in. Never underestimate the power of one voice. History has shown us again and again, one voice becomes two, two becomes 10, and 10 becomes millions. And suddenly, the world changes. In prayer, love to you all. Be safe, everyone. Simba says hi. And peace out. I love you guys so much. Thanks for standing with me on this one.
I am infinite.